Hello, welcome back. I'm host Kevin Zdrill, and with me today is Vincent Lilly. Hello,
Hi, how's it going?
it's going great. We're back today to talk about your book, All Eyes on Me, and it is a true story of addiction, recovery, and hope. Very fascinating story, and we've been uh, peeling back the layers of it over the last several weeks and moving forward. But today, I think, is a good approach. We're going to talk about turning points in our lives that often we may not recognize are there, but they all have significant points in our lives, whether it's positive or negative. And for you in your story, there's multiple times. And for one of them that kind of captured my attention was the time during your sentence at Stony Mountain, and you had the opportunity through the counselor to reach out to your father and have a conversation with him. And for you, as you mentioned in the book, my connection with my father that day in the counselor's office made an immediate difference in my own life to take responsibility and stop making excuses for my actions and decisions. Um, when I finally came to the realization that I was blaming my actions on my father's actions. So, a turning point. Discuss that in your life.
Well, I think with that specific one, well, just kind of to do with the same type of thing that we're talking about is I think a lot of us we do the same thing in life. Like we go through life blaming people for the things that go wrong in our lives, and it's a lot easier to place blame on other people for things that actually are our own actions causing it. And in that situation, I had already been struggling and going through the whole addiction and jail and suicidal thought thing for years already. And I came to the realization of what it is that was happening, what I was doing, and how I was just basically using the anger that I had for my father and for what he had done to my family through the sexual abuse. I was using that anger to fuel all the things that I was doing and the crimes and the drugs and the everything. I was just using that anger to fuel and give me an excuse to do what it was that I was doing and say that's why we're so messed up and that's why I'm so messed up is because of the sexual abuse. But the truth of the matter is I was just using that as an excuse, and until I actually got on the phone with him. And I don't think that I would have to have him on the phone in order to make the big change, but it makes a big difference having him actually on the phone to tell him personally that I forgave him for what it was that he did. And in turn, that basically just was just releasing all that anger and ultimately taking responsibility and holding myself accountable and realizing that I was the only cause of what got me to where I was that day in my life.
And in the book, you mentioned that this wasn't even a planned thought you had to ever do to reach out and talk to your father. It was something that the counselor brought up to you, and again, it was one of those hidden turning points.
Yeah, I think in my head I didn't think it was ever would ever be possible. So I think maybe I might have thought about it, but not just maybe gave a short thought to it, but that was about it. But obviously with the counselor, she has access to do things outside the institution, right? And I didn't. So she knew it was a little bit more possible for that to happen. So when she started to ask me about whether I would ever thought about trying to do it, she knew it was a little more possible than I thought.
And I think she may have recognized what the influence might have had that you were holding into internally these thoughts and feelings, and it did prove effective for yourself.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of ironic too because holding on to all that anger for my father because he sexually abused my did sexual abuse in my family. Um, it made it worse because where I was in prison. So I was seeing and having to deal with sex offenders every day, usually. You know what I mean? So I would just project all my anger and everything onto them. Obviously, yeah, a normal person's going to be angry at someone like that anyway, but I was projecting everything I had on them because of what had happened in my family.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times we all do that too when it comes to stuff, like especially to do with this stuff to do with the police and the stuff that they do sometimes. A lot of the times what people do is they project their own incidents that they have had with the police onto other situations.
It's very true. And you mentioned in the book as well that you had a big turning point where you decided that suicide was the only option. And you went out one night to make a robbery to get medications, and you came home. You had a bag full of pills that you were going to overdose on. You spilled them uh, onto your bed, and they were all empty. And you said, "What ran through my mind? Disbelief, relief. I couldn't get a grip on exactly how I felt at that moment." And then take us from there.
I think the funniest, well, I don't want to say funniest, but for me right now, it makes me think the funniest feeling that I had in that situation was the anger. I was angry that there was no pills there. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, my plan obviously to get high, and then I was just gonna, inject a bunch of pills and just overdose. But like, you'd think that the sense of relief would have been more there than that. Just goes to show how far I was into the choice that I had made and what I had planned to do after that. Um, Obviously, I knew that robbing a pharmacy with a gun was probably going to end in a very long prison sentence if I did end up getting caught, which I did end up turning myself in for it. But yeah, it definitely gave me the time, and that I think I realized that too, because once I was always the type of person that, like, if I did a crime and I thought maybe they're going to catch me, I would just turn myself in. So a lot of guys, they would just run from it, right? And basically you're just avoiding the inevitable. And so I ended up turning myself in, and I think subconsciously I knew that if I did that, it was going to give me the time that I needed to process everything. Because when you're in the addiction and you're using drinking or using drugs, your thought process is not, it's not normal. So it's harder for you to think logically.
Yeah, that definitely was a turning point in terms of where it kind of took you into your next phase of your life, um, which down the road again led to a sentencing judge that you were prepared to have a very long sentence imposed on you for your actions. And when you got there and the judge reviewed all the details, um, you received no jail time. And in the book, it says that you wanted to make change in your life and for your family. And this was something that provided you that opportunity, a major turning point.
Yeah, I think this is one of the situations that just makes me believe that everything happens for a reason. Because in this situation, I never really usually got very much leniency when it came to the justice system, and obviously it was my own doing. But in this situation, it almost seemed like the woman judge, she literally seen it for what it was. Um, and the fact that she said in the court, why is this person who goes from going in and out of jail so many times every year to staying out of trouble for 3 years. And she's seen obviously my ex-wife and my mother and other people came to court and read letters to support me. And I had been doing things in the community also, like volunteering and all that. So she's seen that there was some sort of change that was happening, and there had to be a reason why. Also, my daughter had just been born. I think 4 months. I think she was 4 months old. I think, or well, when I was in jail, she was actually 6 months by that time. So yeah, and it was my first child. So yeah, she definitely was one of those judges that paid good attention to the cases that she has.
I think she didn't have to, and she could have imposed a fairly significant prison time for you.
Yeah, they were asking 7 years.
Yeah, and that would have changed the course of your life if she hadn't taken the time to really sit back and review and look you in the eye and get a sincerity that she believed.
Yeah, the best thing about that is that I hope that she she's somehow seen some of the things that I'm doing now, because she contributed to making that possible. And I think that these judges that make those decisions that are good ones, they deserve to know what the outcome is of that, because then it can just strengthen, doing the right thing. Because I know that when it comes to being a judge, it can be a bit probably monotonous when it comes to like the decision making, because you get these people that just keep coming in front of you over and over again, and it's just like they kind of just get stuck in that decision that they make, and it's always a no. So it's good to have these cases that come in front of them, and they just kind of like shake their head and realize that people can change.
Yeah, I think it's a really important message that you've always tried to promote, that give someone the benefit of the doubt, give them a chance, give them an opportunity. Because if you don't have the opportunity, there's no opportunity then to make change.
Well, that's one of the things that people who are stuck in addiction and in the justice system, they're hopeless. So literally what a lot of them are looking for is just looking for someone to give them a chance, because they haven't ever gotten a chance. And these people wouldn't even believe this kind of effects that will have on a type of person like that when they do actually get a chance. It doesn't even have to be anything huge, like giving someone a job or something like that. It would be something that would change people's lives and give them, because we all need hope in this world. And when people are feeling hopeless, it's really easy to stay stuck in that thought process.
And truly, it's as simple as a job or housing or a connection with someone as a support. Now, it may seem like that seems pretty obvious, but it's not.
Well, it's a lot of people struggle with self-esteem and self-worth, right? Feeling like they're enough, and so they just don't feel like they're worth it. And so there's, as soon as if someone gives them a chance and just that little glimmer of hope, and give them that boost in their self-esteem or their self-worth, can change a person pretty quickly.
And even despite the opportunities and the opportunity to change, there's still setbacks. And there's no limit to the setbacks. And even within your own life, setbacks still continue despite the opportunity that you were given an empty bag of pill bottles and couldn't suicide that night. And the fact that, the sentencing judge didn't give you jail time. It still was an opportunity, but there was still a setback. And you mentioned in the book that while you're with your probation officer, that you had got back to using again. and you decided you had to be honest, take responsibility, be accountable for your actions. So you braced yourself for the potential consequences of your confession to your PO and how it would have an effect on your future. But you faced it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that it helps a lot of us is just learning to just face things, you know what I mean, instead of running from it. Because when you basically our bodies are all designed to not want to deal with things that are uncomfortable or painful. That's how our bodies are designed. They're designed to steer us away from that kind of stuff, from the discomfort or the pain. And so basically what you got to do is you got to just face it. When these things happen, things are uncomfortable and you just don't want to do something. Like, we all go through it. When something comes up in the day where you're like, oh, I want to do this and I don't want to do it. So you don't do it. It just strengthens that whole behavior. And so the more that you face it and the more that you just push through it, the easier it gets. And it's as simple as like some small things, like just to start to train yourself. You know what I mean? With, like, let's just say your mailbox is outside and you got to go outside to go get your mail and you don't want to do it. So you don't do it ever. Simple. It's as simple as that. Is the small things like that is you just keep pushing yourself when you don't want to do something. It just gets easier and easier. And same with procrastination. You know, it's good to do prepare things so that they're prepared for yourself during the day. Often we just like to just put things off, and then when it comes time to actually do them, we're angry. Meanwhile, we're the only ones who are the ones that cause that. So
It's very true. And I know feedback from readers on the book, it's sort of a yin yang where they see you doing destructive nature things, and then you have the opportunity, uh, and you run with it, and then you kind of falter. But that's life, right? And I think that's a message that you're trying to promote, that don't you're going to fall. You're going to fall multiple times, but keep getting up.
oh yeah, like a lot of people are, well, society and parents have taught us to be perfect. A lot of the times, society and a lot of people's parents teach them to try and be perfect, you know, to strive for perfection, which is unrealistic. You need to teach your kids and you need to teach society that it's okay to fail, that you want to fail, because failure is just going to get you one more step closer to success. And how are you supposed to appreciate life if you don't fail? If you're just gonna go through life and everything's so perfectly done, and you just, like, you're gonna have no appreciation for the things that you have or for the things that you've gained. So, like, you want to fall down 7 times and get up 8, right? You don't want to beat yourself up for falling down, because like I said, it's gonna just get you one step closer to a success. And same with the whole thing with, like, what we were talking about there. How we all have those turning points in our lives, right? Like, obviously there's some ones, well, we all have different sizes of turning points in our lives. For me, I just, obviously mine are the ones that are bigger to stick out more because of the book. But we all have turning points in our lives, and a lot of the times what happens is some of the turning points we have in our lives are very small, and they're so small that we don't see them. And so what happens is you keep making the same mistake over and over again, and you just keep making the same mistake over and over again. And God, they say that God will keep making you make the same mistake until you get right, and until you just realize that it makes things a little bit easier.
I think it's an important message for people in addictions or in relationships to be aware of the smaller signs of those turning points, because they're there. And the sooner you can recognize it and grasp onto it, the opportunity there is to make that change.
Well, yeah, that's just it. You have to, it's as simple as acknowledging it, right? Like as soon as you catch it, you have to catch it, right? A lot of people, if they don't catch it, then it's just like, people are busy sometimes and they don't see things that have happened in that day, in their day or whatever it is, and it just goes by without a thought.
One of the interesting things as we were chatting over the course of months with your getting to know your life is, the times that you were in prison, and it's a very confined, structured day with very little stimulus, and being on the outside, you were overwhelmed by the activities all around you, the sensory imagery around you. And that's part of how we miss things, because we're overwhelmed with what's going on around us.
Oh yeah, life is like literally life today for every single one of us is one big distraction from being the people that we truly are. You know what I mean? Like the reason why I say that we're all born good people is because we all are born good people. A lot of us we all make mistakes. But like even the people who make big, huge mistakes that stand out more than others, we're all, those mistakes that are made, they're not our true selves. And the more and more as we go through time, the more baggage and the more traumas and the more crap we pick up along the way. And the more that we pick up that stuff, it's just a distraction from our true selves. And I'm starting, like, through my sobriety and through the life that I'm living now, I'm actually starting to get closer and closer to being more myself. And that's why one of the biggest things I say to people is just be yourself, because we all go through life wearing masks. And it's a very ironic time right now to be saying that, but we all go through life wearing masks. And more and more that you drop those masks, the more you can be yourself. And that's what we want. What I would want in society is for people to be able to just be themselves, not be pretenders or to be fakers, because there's too many of that. There's too many of those people in this world.
So really your takeaway is to keep our lives simple, keep it basic as much as we can, and appreciate the small things that come across our lives.
For sure, the small things are very important.
Yeah, we're always looking for the big one, but really the small ones, those ones, I think, give us the most satisfaction. We can grasp onto it and appreciate it.
For sure.
And before we end off, Vincent, anything you'd like to leave our listeners as a message for today?
I think pretty much what I was just saying there at the end is a good advice I like to give to people, is to try and just be yourself more and more every day, And I think one of the things there's two things that get in the way of being ourselves, which is pride and ego. And for men, a lot of the times the ego part is really hard to deal with, because society and what we've been taught is how we behave. But in actuality, it's all learned behavior with the egos and all that kind of stuff. So with our pride, and so it can be unlearned. So the more people, I would encourage them to look into that, finding out good ways to deal with your ego and your pride, because the more that you learn to drop those, the closer you get to yourself. And I'd say that's just all I have to say about that one.
Powerful. Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure being with you and discussing your book, All Eyes on Me, a true story of addiction, recovery, and hope. And I think that inspires a lot of our listeners. And I look forward to reconnecting with you next week to further our conversations. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.